Hi everyone, how are you? I hope you're all doing good. I'm not gonna claim to be a lifelong bookworm because I'm not. I've actually only started getting into books since July, so it's literally been like 4 months. But I have a very specific genre that I like. Hey! So I thought we'd just have a bit more of a cozy video. Because I've done a few vlogs and things like that recently, so I thought, why don't we just sit down, have a nice cozy video, and talk about books. I never thought I would say that. I've never been a big bookworm, even though, yes, I did write one myself, but I've never been big into reading loads of books until recently, but I still stick to one specific genre. So I thought I would share with you what I've read since July, because I have a nice little collection now, and do a little review of them for anyone else who is into books or the same genre of books as me, looking for something else to read. Maybe you're not interested in books at all and you're just here anyways. Hello. So I have a few books to review and talk about them. This video is actually sponsored by Audible. I'm sure a lot of you know what Audible is already. Books on Audible are sometimes actually read by the author of the book, which is what I did with mine, a narrator or other celebrities. Hearing the books read aloud in your ear, I think really brings the characters and the story to life, as it's as if you get to actually hear the characters' voices. On a monthly subscription, Audible allows you to carry your favourite books around with you everywhere you go, and you can listen wherever you may be. So me personally, I love crime thriller books above anything else. The most recent book that I listened to on Audible is Ghost Stories, Stephen Fry's definitive collection, which is a pretty newly released Audible original, so you can't find it anywhere else. I was quite pleasantly surprised because I'd never listened to an audiobook like this before. Stephen Fry has the most perfect voice for ghost stories and sort of like creating an eerie environment. It's kind of like listening to your granddad telling you old tales.
A drowsy, dreamy influence seems to hang over the land and to pervade the very atmosphere.
But I think my favourite bit was actually the sound effects that they added. It just really sets the scene and kind of gave me chills sometimes. It's like bird calls and doors slamming, footsteps, that kind of thing. And so it really feels like these stories kind of surround you. It's really cool. It was really cool to listen to, and I definitely recommend this one if you are really into the kind of spooky vibe, spooky season. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, it doesn't even matter. It's still really great to listen to. So download Audible and listen to books by your favourite authors. Thank you very much to Audible. Now I'm going to show you my creepy collection of books that I have read since July. So these are the books that I'm going to be going through today, minus one, but I'll explain that when I get to it. I think I'm going to be going through them in order of which one I started with in July. I do have memory loss though, so no promises on if they're in the correct order. So it might not be spot on, but it'll be pretty accurate. So the first book that I read was back in July. This is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Funny story with this one actually. I went into Frankie and Benny's with my dad and I had just bought this book, Speak of the Devil. The waitress came over to our table and I had this book out. I just got it at Waterstones and I was having a look at it, and the waitress was interested in what I was reading and if I liked books, and I said, oh, I don't even know how I started wanting to get into books. I just decided I want to read creepy stuff. And so I said to her, oh, I'm not a bookworm like at all. I honestly haven't read a book for like years. And so she was like, can I recommend you one? And so she came back with this. It was a very crumpled copy. It looked very loved. And she said that it had gone round pretty much all the staff at Frankie and Benny's. They'd all read it. And she spoke so highly of it, and I was like, well, now I feel like I'm gonna have to. And some of you may have heard of this. It was kind of viral on TikTok for a while. I have a few things to say about this. I do have a few things to say about this. Just let me gather my thoughts. So this is definitely the easiest reading book out of the collection. extremely easy reading. It's very fast paced as well, so if you're quite impatient, then I feel like this book is suited for you. I feel like it's very quick, everything moves very quickly. I actually finished this book in 20 hours because it's so quick and easy to read. It pulls you in very quickly as well, like you get invested very quickly. The only sort of negative kind of thing that I have to say about this is that it's so easy reading, it's almost like a tiny bit childish, and like it's not, I don't know how to word it, like you can just fly through it. It's super easy to read, and like that is a good thing obviously, but I did feel like it's almost a little bit juvenile. But the main reason that it was so well known and viral on TikTok and stuff is because there is a very big plot twist in this, which I enjoyed very much. I pretty much choose a book based on if it has a plot twist. I love a plot twist, it's one of my favorite things about reading. I love unexpected things, so if you like that kind of thing, you'll definitely like this. Would I read it again? Yes, I would. In fact, I read it again recently. Whee! I often have to reread books not that long after I've read them, just because I do forget them pretty much straight after I've finished, unfortunately. Even if it's something like really intense and I'm like, oh my god, that was amazing, in like a week I'll be like, oh, I don't actually remember what any of that was about. So I did reread this recently, so I'm quite refreshed for this video. Really awesome plot twist. I'm gonna rate my books out of 10, so I'm probably gonna give this like an 8 out of 10. I recommended this to one of my friends and she absolutely loved it. In fact, I got almost daily updates of where she was in the book, what was going on, and she was like screaming about it. So if you want something quick and exciting, definitely recommend this one. Now, I think this was the next book that I read afterwards. This is Speak of the Devil by Rose Wilding. I got this one because it's actually by a local author, so I thought it'd be quite cool to read something that someone who lives near me has written. It is a hardback copy, and essentially the plot line of this is that there are 7 women who, by the way, in this video I'm not going to do any spoilers about the book. Anything I tell you are already written on the blurb or whatever. So this book is about 7 women who find a head in a hotel room, I believe, and all of them knew the person and all of them had a motive, but who did it? That is essentially the story. I read the blurb and I thought, oh my god, this sounds really good, this sounds like something that I would really like. However, I struggled a lot with this book. I don't know if this is just me and my conditions, but I really struggled to read this book. I had to try about 3 times to get into it. I kept reading a little bit, putting it down and leaving it for ages because I just could not get into it. I also massively struggled with the fact that there are 7 women. There was far too many characters for me. I couldn't keep up. I couldn't remember all of their names. I couldn't remember all of their backstories. Again, I don't know if that's just me and struggling to process things and my conditions and things, but I did find this book very difficult to get into. It took me a long time. The only reason why I didn't just put it down and not read anymore is because once I start a book I have to finish it. I pretty much had to force myself to read this one, which I didn't enjoy. I didn't like doing that. I was satisfied with the ending, I think, but it took me a long time to get there, and like I said, I really struggled with all the characters and everything. It was too much for my poor little brain. This was unfortunately my least favourite out of the books in my collection that I've read this year. Would I read it again? No, I don't think I would. It was too much for me the first time. I really like the idea of the plot line, but for me, I just don't think that it was, I don't know the right words. I'm gonna give this one like a 4 out of 10, unfortunately. Can't. Okay, so the next book, I'm actually just gonna have to put a picture of it right here. And the reason for this is because I lent this book to my mum after I read it, and we haven't seen it since. So Mum, I know you're watching this. It's not in my room, I've told you. So this is The Housemaid's Secret, and this is the second book in the Housemaid series by Frida McFadden. So I haven't read this one since like July, August time. It's now November. That might not be very long for some people, but I cannot remember a thing about this book. And that's not me saying that the book was bad or anything, that's just my brain. Thankfully I took notes about all of the books for myself to do this video. So I've said in my notes that I actually enjoyed this more than the first one, which I do remember that. I remember I really loved this one. I wrote it isn't as fast as the first one, but I loved it. But I think the first one was like ridiculously fast, like really fast paced. So this one was slowed down a tiny bit at the beginning, which isn't even a bad thing exactly. Another great plot twist. I do remember that. I don't remember exactly what the plot twist is. I really want to read it again, but we can't find it. Again, I'm not putting the blame on anyone. Would I read it again? Yes, I would. I'm gonna give this book I mean, it's hard to say because I can't actually remember it now, but I think when I did read it at the time, I would have given it like an 8 or 9 out of 10. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. There is a new book coming out to this series, not till like next year. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called, but again, I'll put another picture of it right here. It's going to be the next book in the Housemaid series. I'm very excited to get my hands on that one and see what that one's like. Fuck off, mum. The next book I read is The Woman Who Lied by Claire Douglas. Claire Douglas has actually written quite a few books, like thrillery kind of books, and this is the only one of hers that I've read, but I do plan to read more. My friend has recommended another one which I plan to read. I did like her writing style. Again, it was an easy read, but not on the same level as The Housemaid. I really like the plot idea for this one. Essentially, so again, I'm not giving anything away, this is all on the blurb, but essentially this woman is an author and she's still in the middle of writing. She has like a detective crime series and she's in the middle of writing her 10th novel when things start happening in her life and she realizes that it's the same as the plot in the book that she's writing, all of these same very specific events. And so she's realized that she hasn't even published this book yet and someone is doing the same things to her, if you catch my drift. Again, I read the blurb of this in the bookshop and I thought the idea of the plot was really cool and really creative. I really enjoyed this one. I thought this was a really good one. Let me see what I've written in my notes. Again, I've written big plot twist. My stupid brain, I can't remember what the big plot twist is. In my notes I've written it was really well written, exciting, made me want to read more. So like, you know those books where you just read it and then you get annoyed when you have to like go to the shops or something because you want to keep reading? It was one of those kind of books. Would I read it again? Yes, I would. I enjoyed this one a lot. I would probably give this one maybe like a 7 out of 10. I like this one. Next I have The Prisoner by B.A. Paris. I remember very specific things about this one. It's very sort of like, I don't know what the word is. So this book is one of those which flips backwards and forwards from past and present, so that can be a little bit confusing, but in the long run they need to do it and it all like unravels eventually and it all adds up at the end. This is a very intense book, like whee! They're really good at setting the scene. It's very visual and is very good at creating pictures in your head of what the character is going through. So this one is about a woman who is kidnapped in the middle of the night and taken to a small room which is pitch black, and I mean pitch black, like she cannot see anything. The way that they described it is when her eyes are open and closed, it's exactly the same. You can't tell the difference, it's just black. And they're super good at setting the scene. It's almost as if you're in the pitch black room with her and she's like feeling around trying to find things. And yeah, I would describe it as kind of claustrophobic, so if you don't like that kind of thing, maybe this isn't the book for you. But I really enjoyed it. For me, it's quite funny because I look so like sweet and innocent, but like for me, the darker the book, the better. So yeah, I really like this one. Would I read it again? Yes, I would. I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. Next on my list is The Silent Patient by, I don't know how to say his name, I'm just gonna call him Alex. I reckon a few people who are bookworms will have seen this one on the shelves recently, you know, for the last like however long, because I've been seeing this one wherever I go. My uncle's read it, I've read it, my dad's read it, and we all really liked it. This is actually one of my favourite books, I think. It's a very short blurb and it probably sets the scene better than I can, so I'm just going to read out from the blurb. Alicia Berenson lived a seemingly perfect life until one day 6 years ago, when she shot her husband in the head 5 times. Since then, she hasn't spoken a single word. It's time to find out why. I really like this one. Hello. This is definitely up there with my favourites. It has a really big plot twist, which I very much enjoyed. I remember when I was reading it, you know those books where you read and you realise that you're literally like my jaw was literally open. Really well written. It's like you're reading it and you're thinking, oh, how is this relevant? And then you get to the end and you're like, oh my god, it was relevant. I would absolutely recommend this one. Would I read it again? Yes, I would. I actually recently listened to it on Audible, so I've read the physical copy and I've listened to it on Audible. I just finished it like a week ago on Audible. But yes, I would read it again, and I have read it again. I'm gonna give this one a 9 out of 10. I really like this one. Next book on the list is The Confession Room by Leah Middleton. I've written in my notes, again, I'm having to go off my notes a lot because I really cannot remember that much. I remember certain things, that it's another easy reading one. For me, that's usually a good thing. I've written that there's lots of metaphors and rhetorical questions, which is an interesting detail, but there we go, must have stood out to me. Gripping, tense, a twist at the very end, and then I've actually written the plot twist to remind me, so yes, now I can remember sort of what it is. Would I read this one again? Yes, I would, if anything, just to refresh my memory. Again, this was another one of those which I picked up off the shelves, read the blurb and was like, that is such a clever idea for a plot, I would like to read this one. So the Confession Room is a online forum in which people confess to their sins, essentially, and some of it is, you know, really sort of mild things like, you know, oh, I broke my brother's PlayStation or something like that, until one day someone starts admitting to on the Confession Room forum, and then a body is found, etc, etc, and it goes from there. I really like the plot for this one. Again, I know it's dark, but I love dark stuff. I think I'm gonna give this one a whee! I can't decide, a 7 or an 8 out of 10. I like this one, I'll read it again. I would recommend it if you like this kind of thing. Oh my god, I forgot about this one. This is The Cottage by Lisa Stone. If anyone else has read this, I would love to see what you think in the comments, because I was baffled. So for me personally, I think the blurb on this is actually quite misleading, because I read it and thought, oh, that sounds cool, that sounds very much like a very classic horror movie, a cottage in the middle of nowhere, tapping on the windows, that kind of thing, like very classic horror movie type things. And I was like, cool, I love that. I want to read it. The blurb is extremely misleading. This book is not about that kind of thing at all. As I've said multiple times in this video, for me the darker the better, but this wasn't just dark, this was disturbing in kind of a sick and twisted kind of way, which I did not like. I'm not just talking like murder or anything like that. This was something else entirely, and I really was very shocked by it. I read the entire thing, obviously. I read the ending in one entire sitting and I was just baffled. Like I didn't know what to think. You know those books that you just read and then you have to sit there for a while and just try and like process all of it? It definitely pulls you in and, you know, makes you want to know what happens and everything, but do not be pulled in by the blurb because it's extremely misleading. Extremely, like, not what I expected at all. Would I read this one again? No, I don't think I would. I read it once and it's gonna stick with me. Yeah, not at all what I expected. Please, if anyone else has read this, chat to me in the comments. I want to know what you thought, because I was just baffled by this one. If you're intrigued, then go ahead and read it, but like I said, don't be drawn in by the blurb, because it's not what the book is turned out to be about, like, at all. I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 10. I really liked it at first, you know, the tapping on the window really pulls you in. It's very creepy, very eerie, but then I thought it started to get really far-fetched and unrealistic, and I was like, what the heck is going on here? 3 out of 10. Yeah, I wouldn't read this one again. Okay, and finally, the most recent book that I've read, physical book, because obviously the most recent was the audiobook of The Silent Patient, but this was the last physical book that I've read, called Don't Look Away by Rachel Abbott. I actually had this one on my bookshelf for ages and I was putting it off because it's thicker than all my other books, and I immediately look at that and think, oh my god, that's too much for me. But I was proud of myself because I just bit the bullet and I got started, and I was really enjoying it. This is about a woman who 11 years ago, her younger sister went missing from a cottage that they lived in Cornwall, and this woman ends up going back to Cornwall to the cottage, and essentially the case reopens and a body is found. Is it her sister? That kind of thing. And it's very much focused on where is her sister. Whee! There's one moment in particular in this book that really stuck with me because it was very sort of sad and haunting, yet heartwarming at the same time, and it will definitely stick with me. I can remember it very clearly, which is saying something because of my shit memory. The ending I was satisfied with because everything tied up nicely and everything was explained. Well, saying that, I've written in my notes that there was a tiny cliffhanger, but it just leaves you thinking, yet I was still satisfied with the ending. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I read a lot of it on the train actually when going to London. It's a 3-hour journey, so I read a lot of this on the train and I got through a lot of it because I was very much pulled in. Would I read this one again? Yes, I think so. I wouldn't be super excited to read it again the same as some of the others there. Maybe that's because it's slightly thicker, I don't know. I'm gonna give this one a 7 out of 10. And that's all of the books that I have read since July. I'm now going to show you the books on my future reading list. So I have 4 books on my bookshelf that I haven't read yet. One of them is Rabbit Hole by Mark Billingham, which my granddad actually gave me because he started reading it and couldn't get into it. When I first look at this, I immediately think of The Silent Patient because it's got a kind of similar vibe. Again, this is another quite thick book, and so that puts me off because it's just a lot for me to process and go through. It definitely sounds like something that is right up my street and something that I would enjoy. My granddad said he couldn't get into it, but I think my granddad's a little bit too innocent for these kind of books personally. I definitely want to read it, I'm just not very soon because it is thicker. Brain on Fire by Susanna Cahalan. This book and this movie means a lot to me. This is a book about encephalitis, obviously that's what I have. Susanna, who wrote this book, this is a true story about her life and what happened to her. She had a different form of encephalitis to me, but the symptoms are pretty much identical. So this is a true story, autobiography about what happened to her. The movie is on Netflix and I love the movie so much, it means a lot to me. I do struggle to watch it now though, I haven't watched it for a long time just because it is so hard hitting, but it's extremely powerful. I asked for this for Christmas and I got it, so I still haven't read it yet though. This book I actually got yesterday. The front cover is kind of graphic. It's got what looks like a cut along the front of it just because of what this story is about, so I'm actually going to cover it up because I don't want to get like flagged from YouTube or trigger anyone or anything. But it's called Do No Harm by Jack Jordan, and I just got this a few days ago. And it's actually about a surgeon, which is why it's got the cut down the front, who has to kill a patient on the operating table. But it's to save his son somehow. I don't know how it's all linked. I haven't read it yet, but I'm quite looking forward to reading it. Again, I know all these books are like so dark, but surely it's not just me who only reads books like this. This one is called The Secrets of Mill House by Anne Wynne Clark. Beans. This will possibly be the next one. Again, I just like the sound of the plot of this one. It sounds like something that I will enjoy. Woo! Hopefully it won't be really weird like this one. So that is all the books that I've read so far. Again, I've only been, can I call myself a bookworm yet? Since July, so it has only been like 4 months. I do plan to read other books and read more books by some of the same authors, that kind of thing. I hope you enjoyed this video. I know I've never really done anything like this before. I just thought it could be kind of cozy, and if anyone likes the same genre as me, perhaps I've given you some ideas. I personally just really enjoy lying on my bed with a blanket and a candle on and a book. Even if it is a really creepy one. I just love it. Thank you for watching. Let me know if you've liked this. By the way, I have got some health updates, but I'm not going to get into it into this video. So please do follow me on Instagram if you're curious about keeping up to date with my health journey and everything, because I don't want to get into it now. I do sort of update on my Instagram, so if you'd like to see it, then there'll be updates over there. But yeah, thank you for being here, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!